Patrick, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so here we are. This is our we've done a lot of radio and TV together, but this is going to be our first video for our home buying class, which is going to be telecast and put all across the area. We wanted to give people an idea of what it's like to buy a house. And my name is Charles Scott. I'm the real estate agent. I've been in business for over 38 years, and I don't know. I think Patrick might have me a little bit beat on the mortgage end there. And Patrick, Kelly, and myself, we want to invite people to share this with other people, and also hopefully you can get some information from this home buying seminar that can help you in the purchase of a home. Maybe you want to say a little bit of introduction yourself, Patrick.
Well, my name is Patrick Kelly. I've been in the business for going on 29 years, and I'm currently own Fairview Financial for the past going on 5 years. But prior to that, I've worked at several banks, namely Wells Fargo, Wachovia, been in different capacities, sales manager, vice president and such. But over the years, getting experience and be able to pass them on to clients and be able to assist people in owning a home, it's a pleasure for me. My biggest pleasure is to put a person in a home and they say, God bless you. Yeah. So
That's right.
we collaborate with Tri-State Realty, and of course, we have a radio program going every Wednesday. We'll talk about that later. So Charles and we collaborate, like I said before, to bring you vital information to help you get into a home. And Charles, we'll talk a little bit more later in terms of the importance of buying as opposed to renting. Many advantages there. So, Charles, you want me to jump into the pre-qualification process and then have you jump back in? Well,
Sure. What I
go
can
ahead.
do is basically, for the people that are out there, base our intent here is to give you an idea of the market. You've been reading a lot of articles, and there's been a lot on TV about real estate lately, about interest rates, about the availability of properties, and a lot of people are sort of confused because you get it from so many different sources. Right here, we're live and we're going to be talking to you about what's happening right here within this area. We're both in Connecticut, and being in Connecticut, we both have a lot of experience, local experience. So therefore, what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to get it right straight from the horse's mouth. So we'll be able to, enlighten you. Patrick, again, as I said, has been in the business for a while. I've been in the business for a while. And the both of us specialize, I think you might agree, Patrick, in dealing with first-time home buyers and
Absolutely,
helping the
yes.
people.
First-time home buyers, they need special assistance, holding their hands, uh, you know, not to use terminologies to throw them off, but to explain each terminology as you go along and to educate them as to what that is and to, my thing is to first let the client have a mindset, a positive mindset as to what you're getting into and to hold their hands along the way. So, uh, if you will, Charles, I'm going to go into the pre-qualification slash pre-approval. Now, there's a big difference between the two. A pre-qualification is a minor step into telling the client what they can afford. I don't do much of those at all. I jump straight to the pre-approval. The pre-approval process is looking at the credit, taking the income, and also take into consideration the debt and how much money they have to put down and evaluate what program fits that client because different clients have different needs. Once I do that and everything fits, I give them what's called a pre-approval letter. This letter is like a blank check, basically. You're telling the realtor, hey, this person uh, has been pre-approved to get a mortgage based on what's in that letter. It's going to be a dollar amount on the program. So when they come to you, Charles, basically you're going to look at that letter, you're going to take them out and you're going to show them property in accordance with what's on that letter. Let's say it's for 350,000. You will not show them something for 380 because the limitation is 350. Now, I always take the client to the maximum. It doesn't mean that you have to buy a property for the maximum, but you cannot go over it, you can stay under. Once you get that letter over to Charles, Charles will take you out and he will show you multiple properties. And if you're lucky, maybe the first one, you like it, and you tell him, hey, I like this one, I don't want to look anymore. Now, Charles, you pick it up from there because we're giving them the
Okay.
timeline. Pick it up from
What
there where
happened?
you have the pre-approval letter to go.
All right. So, you and I discussed many times. I have a lot of people that will ask me, well, where do I get started? How do I get started in buying a house? And, one of the things Patrick and I want to emphasize to you is that the first step in getting started in buying a house is to decide that you're going to do it and take action. You don't know, Patrick, and I know you're sure, how many people come to us and they say, oh, I've been thinking about this for a while. And I say, how long? Oh, about 10, 12, 15 years. So that's quite a long time to be thinking about it. What we hope to achieve here is to motivate you enough to get up and make that decision. But education sometimes makes you comfortable to want to do things. So if you got the education, it takes away that fear. So that's what we're trying to do right now to give you some education to get you started. I know, Patrick, you've been in the business for a long time. You've been in mortgages for a long time. We sort of sometimes pass by our accreditations as to how makes us qualified to do this versus anybody else. The people that watching us today, let's admit it, there's a lot of home buying seminars. What makes ours different? Well, first of all, you got about 75, 80 years of experience here.
Combined.
Patrick's been in it for a long time. I've been in business for 38 years. I've known Patrick for 20 years. And before that, he was doing it maybe for another 20 years before that. And on the mortgage end of it, I know, Patrick, you've been vice president of banks and all of that different type of a resume that you have. So what happens is I have a lot of people walk into my office. First thing they'll say is, I want to buy a house. And as you said, Patrick, I'm not taking them out and showing them anything until they've been pre-approved or pre-qualified. So the first thing I'll ask them is, have you been pre-approved for a mortgage yet? And that's the very first step in looking for a house. They may say no. So look at it this way. How do I know? I just don't take you out and just start showing houses without knowing how much money can you get? Can you get any money? How much is your qualification for? I need to know that. So what I will do at that point is call Patrick and say, I have a client here who's looking to get pre-approved or pre-qualified for a mortgage. And Patrick is going to need certain items. He will take it from there as far as what items you're going to need so that he can determine whether or not you're bankable and how much money he can give you. Now, a lot of times people may not be ready, right, Patrick? That doesn't mean you don't try. You got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can give them an idea of what is it going to take for them to get pre-qualified. This is what people ask me. Well, so what is he asking for? What do I have to do?
Well, I'll tell them. First of all, you're going to be verifying that you have a job. It's paramount that you have a job because the bank wants to know how you're going to pay that mortgage and how do you satisfy that by way of pay stubs, W-2s, and tax returns. Also, if you're telling me, hey, Patrick, I have $50,000 towards buying this house, well, show it to me by way of a bank statement. Also, while you're doing that, I'm going to need to pull your credit I'm going to take information from you as to your social security number, date of birth, address, and how long you've been at your address. Also, I need to find out from you how long you've been on your job. We need 2 years of consecutive employment. Now, let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's say, for example, you're at a Tom Jones company, you've been there for 2 years, and you're in the capacity of an accountant. You left that job that you've been at for 2 years, and you went to another company in the same capacity. You're an accountant, but you only been there for 6 months. Can you qualify? Absolutely, because you're going from one company to another in similar capacity. In this example, an accountant. On the other hand, if you've been at that company for 2 years as an accountant, you left that company into another company, a different capacity. Now you're a driver. You go from being an accountant to a driver, then you have to be a driver on that second company for 2 years. So that's what I meant by 2 years of consecutive employment, specifically in the same line of work. So to elaborate, pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, bank statements, how long you've been on your job. I will evaluate those things, and based on my findings, and of course the credit report, based on my findings, I will give you a pre-approval letter. And because you're on this in the seminar now, if you are thinking about buying, gather those things up, pay stubs, get your W-2 for 2 years, your bank statement to show that you have the ability to buy the property. And so that when you come to me, those things are readily available. And so we take it from there into the pre-approval process, which can take 15, 20 minutes. Once I pull the credit, I can do the numbers right here real quick. And so you're on your way. Take it from there,
That's
Charles.
good, because the other thing is, like you're saying there, try and get as much material together as you can. And most people have their pay stubs because they're getting paid. Sometimes it's done electronically. I notice a lot of people increasingly now, when they get paid, they get direct deposit. So in a situation like that, where they don't have the actual pay stub, where it's direct deposit, they don't have that paper in front of them. What could you or what could suffice? What is a good way for them to get that information to you?
If they don't have the pay stub right away, basically they can tell me verbally, just for the numbers purposes, just to start what it is. But definitely you're gonna have to prove, verification, of your employment and the amount that you make. Now, once the loan goes in, the processor will call your employer or send over what's called a verification of employment. We call it a VOE in the business, VOE, verification of employment. If it's a written, they'll complete a form and sign it, and they will send it back to me or to my processor to verify your income. Now, there are times where you don't have readily the pay stubs, and you're gonna have to get it because we're gonna need it. So not only that, the W-2, you can, if you don't have it, you can go back to your employer and say, hey, I need 2 years of W-2s. Sometimes based on the person, sometimes we don't need the tax returns, but it's a rule of thumb that you should have it, especially if you're self-employed. We need to see how much you're writing off as
How much money they make.
and how
Exactly.
much money you make. Because as a self-employed person, it's not your gross, but your net profit after all your expenses. So be prepared. That's the
Well,
motto. Be prepared when you're coming to get qualified.
what I tell people is that when you're looking to buy a house out there, The bank does not want to loan you more money than you can afford to pay back to them. So they want to know, how much money do you make? A lot of times people say, well, they want to get into all my business. Well, it's like Patrick makes a joke all of the time. He said, if you walk up to me out of clear blue sky and I don't know who you are, and you say, hey, loan me $20,
Mhm.
and I don't even know you, you're a complete stranger. I don't know the first thing about you. Why should I give you $20? But now, if I know you and you're a friend of mine, I know you got a good job and I know you're good for the $20, I'll say, sure, here's $20. So now imagine we're going to the bank and we're asking them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they want to know a little bit about you. They want to know,
That's right.
how long you've been on this job, how long have you lived where you live, what's your credit? And the credit doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna leave all that up to Patrick. He's gonna tell you, what they're looking for and everything. But there's
Mhm.
certain things that they look for when you're looking to purchase that particular property. And I always tell everybody, we can help you with everything but income. We can't give you money to buy the house, but we can help you improve your credit.
That's right.
We can help you, do a lot of other things, but we can't give you a job to buy the house, but we can tell you creative ways in which you can do things to help you buy that house, which we're going to share with you today. Is how do you get creative and coming up with more income? How do you get creative? How do you buy that house? What you got to think outside of the box. Patrick and I are not the people that you just put information and call them up and put it on the computer and then you get an answer back. We're going to sit down, hold your hand, give you an idea. What is it that you have to do to make this work? That's the difference in dealing with someone who you can see and you can talk to. A lot of people, they go online and they put information in, what's that say? You put bad information in, you get bad information out. Or in a lot of cases, I'm the realtor. I'm telling you from the street. This is what happens when we get out there. When you come to me and you get that pre-qualification or that letter saying you're qualified to buy a house, I in turn then have to bring you in, sit down, and I know the amount that you're qualified for. And I find out what type of house that you want to purchase, which Patrick will go over. Do you want, condo, multi, single family? And Patrick's going to go over that with you. I then bring you in and sit you down. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Patrick. And getting pre-qualified, what is the difference? Is it all the same $1 amount? You can buy any house you want. There's different types of houses. Maybe you could tell them a little bit about the different types of homes and the different types of way in which you qualify.
All right. So again, to pick up from where you left off there about affordability, it's all depends on affordability. All right. So in terms of credit, uh, we're looking for 620 mid-credit score. Now, there are programs out there like the FHA, which we'll touch on those a little later on, that will allow you to purchase a property with less credit score. Of course, you're not going to get the best rate with that, but yes, you can go down to 550 with a lot of these programs. Now, it's all about affordability, what you can afford, like Charles says earlier, then put it on a letter. Now, what I'll ask you is, what kind of property you're looking for? Is it a single family? Is it a multifamily? And multifamily is determined if you're buying 2, 3, or 4 family. That's multi. Or are you looking for a condominium? A lot of people, they don't want to go through the headache of cutting grass and maintaining a home of such. So then if that's the case, you need to buy a condominium, because the condominium, of course, the maintenance, like the garbage collection and the snow removal, is maintained by the association. You pay association dues. Single family and condominium, when it comes to a mortgage, is you can put minimum down payment, owner occupied, and for conventional is 5% down payment, and for FHA it is 3.5% down payment. Now let me elaborate a little bit here, the difference between FHA and the conventional. FHA does not give you the mortgage. FHA is like an insurance. If you go to buy a car, you have to have insurance, yes. On the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, they insure the loan to the bank. In the event of default, they will get a portion of their money back. So when that happens, they're more lenient in terms of credit. They're more lenient to, credit blemishes or a little situation here, they're lenient when it comes to that. Now, as opposed to conventional, it's 5% down payment, but you would need what they call mortgage insurance, PMI, private mortgage insurance on that property. Basically, the private mortgage insurance doesn't do anything for you. It helps the lender to cover the mortgage insurance wise. All right. So we have single family, which you can do, 3.5% down or 5% down. But interestingly, I don't know if I should go into it now or save it for later. Now I have a program you can do 1% down. All right. 1%
That's a great
down.
program.
Yes, I'm going to go into that, but let's finish talking about types of properties. Now, if you are one of those buyers who you don't mind living with other folks, then I would encourage you to buy a 2, 3, or 4 family property, which at that time you become an investor. You're going to be living on, if it's a 2 family, you live on 1 floor and you rent the other one out, and that helps you to pay the mortgage. A lot of times several times I have a client who buys, let's say, for example, a 3 family. You can't live on 3 floors at the same time, so you live on 1, and you rent 2 apartments out, and that's phenomenal because that rent goes to pay the mortgage, and you could live rent free, and that's a great thing to do. But you have to weigh the pros and the cons. The negative to that is you are responsible for the maintenance. I give you an example. You come home from work, you're tired, getting ready to go to bed. Your phone ring. When you look,
Call
it's
the
your tenant
landlord.
downstairs. Mr. Landlord, my toilet broke. Yeah, that's your responsibility. You got to figure out a way how to get that done because it's your responsibility. Another
That's what I tell
example.
people.
Yes, another example. It snowed 3 feet of snow. It's your responsibility to clean that property. You're a landlord. All right. So negative and positive in pretty much everything we do. All right. I'm going to jump into real quick at Charles and tell him about that 1% down payment program.
I thought you were going to save that for last.
All right, let's save it. Let's save that for the
that's
last.
the juicy part. That's the good part.
All right, so let's save that for last.
Buy a house, and you know what? I deal in real estate and buying of homes, but also rentals. And many of the people out there, what has created the most demand for buying a house? I always tell people, what day of the month is the day that motivates most people to buy? And I tell people it's always on the 30th and the 31st. That day is when the phone goes off the hook. Why? Because here comes the landlord. The landlord wants to rent. And after he leaves, people sit down and start thinking, I'm tired of paying this landlord. I want to buy my own house. So people get totally motivated after the landlord leaves and all your money just disappeared out of your hand into the hands of the landlord. So the landlord collecting the rent has motivated a lot of people more so to buy than anything else. But look at it this way. That landlord comes every month, 12 times a year. And some people are amazed at me. They've been in the same house for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. That's a long time. So as I started off and I said, what's the biggest incentive in buying a house? That's you yourself to get motivated to say, I'm sick and tired of paying rent. It's about time I ended up buying a house and to get out there and start doing something about it. The other thing is that what creates people to purchase a home is in recent years, because of the COVID, we're in Connecticut. A lot of people have moved in from New York. A lot of people are located. So, and bought a lot of homes, or a lot of people have then increased the rent. And you have a lot of people that are going to the tenant saying, I just bought the house and I want my relative to move in with me. So I'm going to need the apartment that you're living in. And so now that person, I always ask people when they come to see me, why are you moving? That because I need to know that. Why are you moving from where you are right now? I have to know what's the incentive because buying real estate in a sense is how motivated you are. So that's one of the things. But after you've pre-qualified them, Patrick, and they come to me, I then sit down with them in front of a computer, and we have to identify properties. That's why I ask you, what's the difference between the condo or multifamily? I have to know this because you can't bounce all over the place from one to the other. So when the people come to me, I sit down and we identify all the properties. Remember this: if you've never attended a home buying seminar, never talked to a real estate agent, all the properties that one real estate agent has, the other real estate agent has the same properties. We all share the properties. We have what they call the multiple listing service. That's a service that we can go on and see all the various properties that are for sale. Now, if you're watching this seminar, and I'm sure that you've already looked on different websites, there's Zillow, there's Trulia, there's Realtor.com, and all of these different websites that are out there. Realize that those are not real estate companies, they're marketing companies. And you got to know how to navigate those websites, because a lot of times on those websites, they have everything up there. It may be a house that's in foreclosure, maybe a house that's already been sold. Maybe it was sold 6 months ago. So you got to be able to realize what's still on the market and what's still for sale. I'm going to give you some terms that you got to look out for on those websites. Pending. A lot of times people say, well, what's pending? Pending, that means the property has a deposit and it's getting ready to close. So that's a property there that you can't get a contract on because it's already got a contract on it. It might say continue to show. What's that mean? That means we have a contract on the house, but we're still going to show it just in case the deal falls apart. But we can't have two contracts on the same house. So that's a property that's got a contract on it. Then the other is simple. It says deposit. We already know that house has a deposit. So when you're looking at those websites, you got to look for one thing: for sale or on the market. That means that's a property that's available right now. So when you come into my office, I look at them on the computer, we sit down, we look at what's your price range, we look at the different types of properties. And another thing I have to know is what kind of mortgage are you getting? Patrick is the one that explains to you there's a conventional mortgage and there's an FHA mortgage. An FHA mortgage is a little bit more restrictive, as Patrick will explain to you, because we can't do a rehab. We can't do a property that needs a lot of work and a lot of maintenance, because that property will not qualify for that type of mortgage. So that's why I need to know from the beginning, what type of mortgage are you going to be getting? How much is your mortgage going to be? I need to know all of those parameters so that when we go out there, you do not lose any money, because if you go out there and you're looking at a property, we have to look at what properties qualify for your type of mortgage program. And we can do that sitting in the office, but now the rubber hits the sidewalk where we get up, go out, start looking at properties,
Right.
kicking the tires, looking at the doors. We drive up, we look at the outside, we go inside, we look at the walls, we look at the ceilings, we look at the electrical, we look at the outside, we look at the windows, we look at the roof. We start examining that particular house to see, is this a house that's going to qualify for you? Where's the neighborhood at? Is there a garage? So we then go out and we start examining all of the different properties. Now, you might find a property that you like. And even then, it's not an automatic situation where we say, okay, let's hurry up and put an offer in on this property. Because you know what? Guess who we need now? We need Patrick again. We need to talk to Patrick, because when we talk to Patrick, we have to know, number one, Patrick, this is the price of this particular house. So we're going to want to know this is the price of this particular house. And what else does Patrick need to know? The taxes. Maybe you can cut in there and explain, why do we need to know the price and the taxes, Patrick?
Absolutely. So now, you are buying this house, you're gonna want to know what the payment is. After Charles tell you the listed price and put an offer in, offer is accepted, you need to know how much is your mortgage payment gonna be. Now, there's different components that makes up the mortgage payment. Principal and interest. The principal and interest is calculated by taking the interest rate. When you hear people say, I want to get the lowest interest rate, basically what they're saying, I want to get the lowest payment. The higher the rate, the higher the payment, because the principal and interest is used to calculate that. So principal and interest, that's the mortgage payment. But in addition to that, you're gonna have to be paying the taxes on that particular property. So we take the taxes per year divided by 12, and we had it in there. Of course, like I alluded to earlier, you're gonna need insurance. So you would get your insurance and tell me what it is per year. I divide it by 12 and it would be added in there. Not only that, based on the type of mortgage that you're getting, you're gonna need mortgage insurance. Let's say it's one of those mortgages where you are putting 5% down or 3% down. You're gonna need mortgage insurance. That is calculated in there. So all those four components makes up the mortgage payment. You understand? And based on the mortgage payment, let's say, for example, let's use an example here. Let's say that you buy a two-family property. You're living on one floor and you're renting another floor for $1,700. Yeah. Your mortgage payment is $2,000. So basically, you're coming out of pocket with $300 to make that mortgage payment. That's phenomenal. You get to save some money at the same time, put it in the bank and do various things. So getting to know what your mortgage payment is paramount when you're buying a property.
So you need to know all of those different things, because let's say another reason why is because let's say your mortgage payment can't go over let's say typical let's say $1,800 a month, and the bank says you can't afford a house no more than $1,800 a month. Now Patrick figures out the insurance, the taxes, the principal, and the interest, $1,800. So now we go out and we look at a house, and let's say you're using the taxes of, let's say, $6,000 a year. Now we look at this house and its taxes are $9,000 a year. Well, guess what? The price may be right. The price range is good. But when you factor in that extra $3,000 in taxes, that's an extra $250 a month. So now that house may not qualify just because the taxes were more than what we figured for that particular taxes. Now, another thing I want to let people know about, we're on the shoreline. If you're coming in from New York City into Bridgeport, Fairfield County, New Haven, a lot of water, Stratford, Connecticut. We have to be concerned about one other elephant in the room, and that's the flood insurance.
Yes.
Flood insurance is a big factor in buying a house. We try to eliminate or avoid areas where there's a high cost for the flood insurance, because this is an additional cost that you have to spend. If the bank determines that that house is in a flood area, you now have to buy that additional insurance. In addition to the insurance, in case the house catches on fire, you have to have flood insurance. And the flood insurance rate can be high. Look at what happened. Look at global warming. Look at all the floods that we have had, especially this summer. You know, I dread to think what the insurance costs are going to be next year when they readjust all of the figures for the flood insurance.
Flooding areas that you never had before. So
right,
that has to be adjusted by the FEMA people and all like that.
Exactly. There's areas that never flooded that now are flooding. So when I look at for a house for a client, I look at to see, well, what's the price? What's the principal and interest? Is it in a flood area? What are all of the factors that apply to that particular house? So when we go out and we come back. So after we've gone out and sat down in the office and identified a property, that's when I will call Patrick back up again and say, hey, this is the house that they're looking at. Will this work? Will this qualify? Will this work? What are the numbers? Because I also want the buyer to know what the mortgage payment is going to be. We don't do things blindly, throw a property in there, get it accepted, and now all of a sudden they say, oh, I can't afford that. That's more than I thought it was going to be. So we know ahead of time. Patrick will come back and say, this is what this is going to cost. This is what that's going to cost. So before we put the offer in, we have an idea of knowing what our costs are going to be. If everything looks good, then we can go ahead and put an offer in on that particular property. Next comes
what I've had, Charles, let me jump in here, is that the realtor out on the field would call me and said, hey, this client likes this house. Here's the taxes. Can you redo the numbers? And by doing that, the client will know right there on the spot whether or not to put an offer in based on what the payment would be, because you should know that different properties have different taxes attached to it
right.
based on the property that you're buying. So you may start off with, when I estimate the taxes, may start off with $6,000 a year. And by the time you find a property, it is $9,000 a year. So the figures are going to change. So from the field, Charles would call Mr. Patrick, rework these numbers based on this particular property with a higher taxes than you anticipated in the first place. So it's a back and forth sometime in order to get that accurate number and that comfort level for that client.
Well, not only that, what happens is that after you give them the numbers and we sit down and we work that out, we got to see if that can fit within that person's budget or if there's any other programs that can assist that person. One of the other things too is that when you're buying a house, there's two main, how much money do you need? That's a big question that I always get from people. Well, how much money do I need? And well, I can't really give you that figure. That's where, again, I call Patrick. How much money do you need? There's two things you need: down payment and closing costs.
That's right.
Down payment and closing costs. Those are the two main factors that you're going to need.
So let me jump in here, Charles.
So, Patrick, you jump in and explain that one.
and kind of clarify that a little bit. So like Charles says, there's two components to getting a mortgage. Anywhere you go, any country you go, any state you go, two components to getting a mortgage. One, a down payment. And the down payment can vary whether it's a 3% down payment, 3.5% down payment, or the program I'm going to tell you about later, 1% down payment. Or if you want to avoid mortgage insurance, then you're putting 20% down and so on and so forth. Now, the closing costs, again, will vary based on the property that you're buying. It's not one closing cost fits all properties. What are closing costs made of? Attorney's fees, bank fees, prepaid taxes. All those things are combined together to make up closing cost. And once you put a loan application in, you will get an itemized list of those things that make up the closing cost. So you have an informed number in your head. You can add up the closing cost and the down payment to know your total amount that you're going to be coming up with. It may not be accurate at first, but it will be close to what you're actually going to be coming up with for your down payment and closing cost.
Now, the other thing is that I think this is a good part right here to segue into the surprise that we have for them, because those are the fees: down payment and closing costs. Normally, with a FHA mortgage, it's usually 3.5% down. And conventional, I think, Patrick, you could tell me, go 3%, 5%.
5%, yeah.
5% down. Now, that's been the norm for the longest time, at least 3.5 or 5% that you put down. So let's put it in perspective. If you're looking at a house, it's $300,000. Well, 3.5%, you're looking at around 10,000, a little over $10,000 down.
Right.
Or 5%, and it's you're looking at $15,000
15,000.
down. Now, Patrick, tell them the surprise. What's the new program that's out there that you have with your mortgage
I'm
company?
gonna have him sweat for a little bit and jump into something that we should have covered earlier in this in this seminar. Now, when you're buying a house, you need a team of people. It's not just Charles and I.
Right.
You need a team of people. You need a mortgage person like myself. You need Charles, who is a realtor. You're gonna need an attorney to do the legal paperwork and changing of ownership and all like that. You're gonna need an inspector to inspect the property to make sure that checking for termites, checking the foundation, water pressure, all of that you're gonna need. Also, you're gonna need an appraiser. The function of the appraiser, as opposed to the inspector, which a lot of people confuse, the appraiser is looking for value. You're buying a property for $200,000. You don't know if the property is worth $200,000, do you? The bank will send out an appraiser to make sure that that property is worth at least what you're paying for it. Yeah. But let's say, for example, you're buying for $200,000 and the property comes in at 198. So what do? Charles would go back to the seller and say, Mr. Seller, this property comes in a little lower than what you're selling it for. What are you going to do? 90% of the times, the seller will say, all right, prove to me. Then Charles would go back and get some comps and all like that, and he would most likely go down on the price. However, on the other hand, that $200,000 property is appraised for 205, say. What happened in that case? The seller already agreed he cannot change that. So there comes you buying a property with $5,000 worth of built-in equity. All right. So don't forget, you need a team of people, a realtor, a mortgage person. You're going to need an inspector, and you're going to need an appraiser and an
That's true.
attorney to
And
all put it all together. All right. So much for that, and so much for waiting for the big surprise. Now, over a month ago, one of the lenders that I work with have decided to come up with something innovative. And they have come up with a program that allows the client to put 1% down. I'm going to see if you can see this through the camera for a little bit. 1% down payment, maybe not. Put it up a little bit. All right. I'll explain all the areas of this here. Now, it is actually 3% down payment. However, the lender is going to give you a grant of 2%. And of course, a grant is money that you do not have to repay. So if it is 3% down payment and the lender is giving you a grant, and I'll say it again, a grant of 2%, then you only have to come up with 1%. So we call it a 1% down payment program in any language, all right? But there are some catches to it. Number one, it has to be a single family property or condominium. You cannot use this program to buy a multi-family to be a landlord. No, all right? There's no mortgage insurance. We talked about mortgage insurance earlier, where if you're putting less than 20% down payment, it's imperative that you have mortgage insurance. In this case, the lender will pick up that mortgage insurance you don't have to pay, all right? Here's another catch. 80% of your median income. What does that mean? Every county in Connecticut is designated with income limitations. Now, based on your income, we take 80% of that median income for that area where you're going to be buying the property. You could live in Stamford, but you're buying in New Haven. So we take the median income of New Haven because that's where the property is located, not where you're coming from. All right. So 80% of median income, your 1% down payment must be a single family, no mortgage insurance, and you can be in. Now, here's another part. 620 mid credit score, not 619, 620.
620.
If it's 619, we do have a program for you, which is the FHA. You can go down to 550, but that program is 3.5% down payment minimum. The good thing is with FHA, I may just throw that in at this point right here. You can use that 3.5% down payment to buy 1, 2, 3, or 4 family property. But in the event that you don't want to live with a tenant, then you may want to buy a property with a 1% down payment because it's designated for single family only or condominium. This program came out over a month ago, and I must have had, without exaggeration, somewhere around 25 pre-approvals already. About to close about 3 out of that. So it is working. And I would implore the people, especially on this seminar, to call me, get qualified, whether for this program or another program, the FHA or the conventional.
Exactly.
You need to call me. I'm going to give you my phone number. It's 203-673-5638. You can write it down. 203-673-5638. I am the first stop. You got to come here first. And then I will put you together, and send you over to Charles. All right?
That's right.
And
We're the
Charles
team.
will pick it up from there. Yes.
Well, thank you, Patrick.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things I encourage people to also have is a checking account. You know what happens a
That's a
lot of
good point.
times, you know, we're in the old school, Patrick. We came up where there were checking accounts and people wrote out a check and mailed out a check.
Mhm.
So many of the newer people that I'm working with, you know, they come into the office and we go out and we look at a property, we identify a property, and I say, okay, we got to put a deposit down on the property. And how that works basically is that the people always say, well, how much money do I put down on a property if I find a property? Usually it's 1% of the purchase price just to get started. That's to start the negotiation. So we write up an offer. If the property's selling for 200,000, then that's $2,000. If it's 300,000, 1%, 3,000. You write out that initial check and we write up the offer, and on the offer, it has your name, your address, the property address, and the amount of money that you're offering on that property. Everything is in writing. In real estate, everything is in writing. I don't call the other agent up or call the people and say, hey, my client's offering this amount of money. What do you think? It's got to be in writing because they could say one thing and turn around and change their mind in 10 minutes. Everything is in writing. Once they get it in writing, they will evaluate it. Along with that offer, I will usually email it over to the other agent. The other agent will present it to their client. I send a copy of the check, not the actual check, a copy of the check, which is the deposit check. Let's say you're putting down a total of, say, $10,000 in total. You do not have to send the total $10,000 check over at one time, just 1%. So if we send a check over for $3,000 to get the offer started, if they accept that offer, then we have to send the check plus the other check for $7,000 for the total deposit. But now if the offer is not accepted, then I just give you back your check because I never sent it over to them in the first place. So now you get your check back, you tear it up, you start all over, you void it out, and we look for another property if we can't come to an agreement. But my point here is have a checking account and have some paper checks because so many people, they say, what's a check? I do everything by the direct deposit,
Computer,
and I take
yeah.
it out of my checking account. I never wrote out a check. I use the debit card. I use the credit card. My debit card. Well, you can't put an offer in on a house using a debit card or a credit card. You got to have a physical check. So I always tell people, if you're going to start your journey of looking for a house, open up a checking account and get some paper checks. And it's always good to have also, because if you're buying a house and you're out looking for material or you're looking for something, you want to have a paper trail so that when you do your taxes at the end of the year, you see where you paid for this item, you paid for that item. And so therefore it all comes out of your checking account. So you want to, encourage everyone to get checks, because here's what happens a lot of times. This market that we're in right now, things move quickly. You go out, and I also, let me touch on another point too. Things move quickly. If you are going to go out and look for a house, bring all the people out to look at that house that are going to help you make that decision. You don't go out, look at the house, find the house, and then say, oh, you know what? I want my cousin to look at that. Or I want my uncle to see this house. He lives up in New York. He'll be down this weekend. Well, guess what? That house, if it's a nice house and you've looked at a lot, you like that house, so do a lot of other people. They're ready. They got their checkbook right there in their hand. They like that house. They're ready to go right out in the parking lot with their agent and write up an offer and give a check. And before you even get home, they've already put an offer on that house.
That's
So if
right.
you're going to be bringing people out to look, bring them with you to look at the house. Don't call them in a week later, and don't have to go and order checks to put an offer in. They say, well, I don't have any checks now. I got to go to the bank. And you call the bank and say, hey, I'm coming down to pick up some checks. They say, oh, no, we don't work like that anymore. You have to have an appointment to go into the bank to just apply for the checks. That surprised me, Patrick. After the COVID, whenever I needed something from the bank and I call them up, and my son would say, well, you can't just walk into a bank. I said, why not? They got my money. I actually walk in. Said, no, you need an appointment. I said, an appointment? Is
I
this a
meant to get your
doctor's
own
office?
money. That's right. And
So you
just at
got
that
it.
point there, Charles, you just alluded to that. When you go to look at a house, I'm going to put it another way. Would you go to war without a gun or ammunition, put it that way? So your ammunition when you go to look at property, like Charles said earlier, you bring the family member who is going to help you to make that decision. You bring your checkbook, because by the time you go back home to get your checkbook, somebody else is going to put an offer on there. Yes. And also, you need your pre-approval letter, because when Charles send that offer over with your check, he's going to have to put a pre-approval letter with that offer so that the seller would see that you qualify for that property. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. Now, the other thing now, suppose we go out and, where do we find the properties at? First of all, like I said, the real estate agent, we have the multiple listing service. It has all the properties there. I tell everybody, if they're looking for a property, they can go on Zillow, Realtor.com, but send the properties to me so I can evaluate them to see if it's something that we can go out and look at. If we go out and look at it, you want to put an offer in, then I put an offer in and I send it over to the other agent. If your offer gets accepted, then the next step is Patrick sits down with you to take the mortgage. We have an inspection done of the property. And then Patrick gets into if the inspection, let's say we do the inspection, let me back up a little bit, and say there's some things wrong with the house that we want taken care of. Remember, we can't force anybody to do anything to fix up their property just to sell it to us. You might say, well, how's he going to sell it? Well, maybe the next person coming along won't want the things that we want. So we can request of the seller to fix certain things. The seller can say yes, seller can say no, or the seller can say, I'll fix some things, but not all the things. Once we come to an agreement, then we're all in agreement. Then Patrick can take the offer or take the application, and it goes into what he calls the underwriting, right, Patrick? They send out the appraiser,
Yes.
and then the appraiser comes out. If everything looks good, then maybe you could explain to them, what's an underwriter? What do you mean by underwriting?
All right. So, and I must mention that we're just touching and go because this is so much information to give you all at one time. We didn't get into in depth in terms of credit and other stuff like that. So anyway, so the application comes in, everything looks good. I would put it together, I would package it. It's called packaging. Putting everything together, the contact information, how they can reach Charles, how they can reach your attorney and all that kind of stuff. And I would turn it in. Now, there's a processor. The processor assists in verifying the employment. You remember we talked about that earlier? The processor would either call the employer or send over a form to be completed. It's called a VOE, verification of employment. All those things the processor would do. And when all of that comes together, the employment verification is in there. The VOD, verification of deposit, where they call the bank and verify your money. All those information are in there. Then that file goes to an individual we call the underwriter. That is the final approval step. The underwriter will verify all of that information. Your from the credit to the debt to income ratio, to looking and making sure that you have the money in the bank, making sure that you've been on your job for 2 years, making sure that all those things are there. Then the underwriter would say, approve. It's a final approval. And that's the stage before you go to what they call closing. Now, that's a whole different topic we need to get into. And like I said earlier, this here program, we could do this for 4 hours, 5 hours.
There's so much into it.
There's just so much.
But that's why we come in, make it simple.
That's where we come in, just to make it simple and to touch on a little bit of bits and pieces. However, this is very important, and I need you to write this down for me. What you're hearing here now, you can hear it every single Wednesday. We have what we call a real estate journal. It's a learning process. We're passing on our years of experience onto you. And guess what? It's free. Nada. Zero. All right? Gratis. You don't have to pay for it. However, you have to tune into Spotlight Radio, 105 FM. If you look over my shoulder, the logo is there. It's called Spotlight Radio 105 FM. It's an internet radio. We started 3 years ago, and now we have upwards of 3,000 listeners. Right now, on a Wednesday, 11 o'clock, inside of what I call positive vibration, getting you ready for work, teaching you positive things. Inside of that program, we take a time out at 11 o'clock to give you what's called a real estate journal. I would like for you to write this down for me. You can go to the website, and it is www, that's myspotlight105.com. I'll say it again, www.myspotlight105.com, or you can download the mobile app on your Android or on your iPhone, and all you have to do is download the app there, save it on your desktop, and you can listen from there. We're on all social media platforms, iTunes, one called Streamer. You can find us there, but the most common way to find us is by the website, where you can listen live, or you can download the mobile app. Every single Wednesday, the Real Estate Journal, Patrick Kelly and Charles Scott from Tri-State Realty, we're there to educate you, to motivate you. And if you listen long enough, we'll have a plan where we're going to teach you how to leverage real estate to assist you with retirement. If you have 401k, based on the market nowadays, the bond market. One person called me last week and they said, hey, my 401k used to be $120,000. And guess what? I want to cry. It's only $98,000 left in there. All right. We're going to show you how you can leverage that, use that money,
Build
invest it in
wealth for
real
people.
estate, and have money coming in consistently every single month. So we have a long way to go. We're going to call this a family affair. Tell your friends and neighbors about the broadcast. And Charles, you can verify this. We're going to try to do this seminar once a month, yes?
Yes, we're going to try and reach this seminar out to, people throughout the state of Connecticut, and so that they can become educated. But again, like you said, we are on the radio on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock. They can tune in. And you know what? They can go in and they can see past episodes. They can go to
Absolutely.
YouTube.
Yes.
They can go, we have over, I don't know, 25, 30 episodes up there. Also, this seminar is just touching on the tip, because the people can call us for a one-on-one. The phone numbers are right in the background. And, people all have different situations pertaining to their credit. We can give you tips on credit. You don't have to go spend a lot of money for credit counselors. We can give you tips on, what are the banks looking for? What credit scores? Different banks have different credit score. Different programs have different credit scores. We can assist you to show you what you can do to increase that credit score to get it to the point of where you become bankable. We can show you what bills, people don't realize there's a science. What bills do you pay off? Which bills don't you pay off? I mean, you pay all your bills, but if you got a certain amount of money, you might want to pay this bill first and pay it down, or pay this bill off if you got a certain amount of money. The other one, you may want to just pay on a monthly payment until you get it paid off. There's different ways, some people say, well, I have a car, I owe $3,000 on the car. Should I go and pay off the car completely? Say, well, it depends on how much money you got. Maybe just pay your monthly payment and use that to pay off some of your high interest credit cards. Because if the car payment is only at, let's say, 6% and the credit card's at 20%, put the priority on paying off that credit card, because that's what's killing you with that high interest rate. So you're still paying your bills. It's a matter of where you allocate your money and which ones you want to pay off first. But, there's one thing I was thinking on my mind, that a question that I get a lot that I didn't touch on, I want to touch on. A lot of people walk in the office and they say, I want to see the foreclosures. And I said, well, what kind of mortgage do you have? They might say, well, I have an FHA mortgage. And I said, well, foreclosures usually need a lot of work. The people have been living there and they haven't fixed anything because they know they're losing the house. So, the pipes might be broken, the window might be broken, the door might be off the hinges, because most cases you have a foreclosure, it's a rehab, it needs work. An FHA mortgage is not for that type of property because it has to be in pretty decent shape. Even the conventional, in some cases, depending upon how much work needs to be done.
Well, they have the 203K program.
Right, there's the 203K.
This seminar is not for that. All right.
Right, that's
have
exactly
another seminar where I can show you how to buy a property with no income, believe it or not. We're going to show you how you can buy a property and borrow the entire rehab cost. This seminar is not designed for that. So
that's one in the future.
yes. Or one of these Wednesdays, we could talk about investors and how you can buy a property with no money. But what we've been talking about so far since we started here is buying a property using your income, correct?
Correct. Correct. That's why I said, people come in and they ask these questions, but it may not pertain to them because there's different situations for different people. That's why I said they can call us after they've watched this for a one-on-one, because everybody has a different situation. Everybody has different problems or different needs and different wants. You may be watching this and you may be a cash buyer. You may not need a mortgage, but then you may need a mortgage. So everybody's got a different type of situation where they can call us and we can advise them and showing them how they can build wealth, build savings. Real estate can do many things for you. It can provide education for your child. You can use the equity to go into business. I have people that bought homes years ago, 5, 10, 8 years ago. They have plenty of equity. They have gone into business. They've sent their children to college. They've used their equity to open up a business to make more money. They bought a single family or a multi, and now they're buying their second property. So real estate can do more for
You're talking
you.
about second, I have had clients who many, many years ago bought their first property. I show them how to leverage that property, take some equity out of there, they buy a two-family. I have one client now, they have up to 9 properties. I can show you how to do that. The knowledge is here. We're just trying to pass it on to you. All right. So real estate is the way to go. The money you put in the bank and have it sit there. If you want to go take some out of it, you have to make an appointment. When it sits there, what do you think happened to it? Do you think it sit there until you're ready for it? What happened is the bank, and you can research this, I'm telling you, the bank takes that money, your money, and they invest it, and they make a lot, and they give you a little bit.
Exactly.
This
They give
much,
you a little bit.
this much, all right? And they take this much.
Mhm.
So I'll show you how you could take your own money, buy a, let's say a 3-family house, all right? Building up the equity. Then you can take money out of that house within a short time, especially the way equity is being built up nowadays. And you use that money to buy another one. And you
Exactly.
can, after a while, you use that money from that one to buy another one. So knowledge is power, and we're here to give you power. That's basically what it is. And that radio station I told you about is 24/7, all over the world. If you go to Iceland and you want to listen, you can listen there too. It's internet all over the world. I would love for you to spread the word. Have your family member, your co-worker, tune in on a Wednesday. And I think what we're going to do later on, Charles, first time I'm saying this, I haven't even said it to you. We may extend this out into the evening time because a lot of people at 11 o'clock, they don't have access to, they're at work, they don't have access to the radio at that point. Some people can listen at work, yes, but some can't. I'm gonna think about having, a second part of the real estate journal in the evening time when people get off of work, where they can be
Exactly. That's a good
listening to
that's
us here. You won't be able to see our beautiful faces like you are now,
mhm.
but you'll
That's a
be able
good
to
point.
listen. Yeah, you understand? So I'm gonna
Exactly.
arrange that, and we can have an evening program where we're giving, valuable information to the listeners.
And also the people that are listening right now and the people that see us right now, you can go into your chat box and if you have some questions, individual questions or
Of
general
course.
questions that you want to ask us, you can go in there and put those questions, and we will have a question and answer session right after this, or any questions that or specific things that are in your mind pertaining to you, and we can answer those
Or
questions, or you can call us after.
or they can call us, set an appointment to come into our offices,
Exactly.
sit there, and we're not gonna limit you, say, hey, you've been sitting here now for 20 minutes, time to go. No. We will give you the time and you'll be able to physically see where we are. My office is located at 1000 Lafayette Boulevard, right downtown beautiful Bridgeport. You can come there. You can go on the website. It's fairviewfunds.com. How easy is that? www.fairviewfunds.com. I encourage you to go to the website. A lot of questions are answered there as well. You can go to the contact page, put your question in, and I'll get back to you. Charles, tell them where you're located and how they can reach you.
Well, the other thing also is, they can go to my website and they can see properties, actual properties, identify properties to
In
look
real
at,
time.
right, real time. www.tristaterealtyct.com. So just think of Tri-State Realty with a Connecticut. It's tristaterealtyct.com. They can go to my website. They can go in and they can see the properties that basically I have available. They can also call me. My office is located, my main office, I have offices in Bridgeport, Waterbury, New Haven, but my main office is right here in Bridgeport, Connecticut, 880 North Avenue. So we're local on North Avenue, 880 North Avenue, right at the intersection of North Avenue and Main Street. You probably see my signs all over Bridgeport. We're very visible, so we're able to tell you about a lot of different programs that are out there. I'm also the past president of the Bridgeport Board of Realtors. Past president of the Bridgeport Board of Realtors, and we have 2,300 members, and I'm their past president. And I used to be president of the Waterbury Board of Realtors. So I've been out there for a long time. I still serve on the state board. I'm a director on the Connecticut Association of Realtors. And I also am totally involved in the local Bridgeport Board of Realtors. I'm on their board of directors. And I was chosen Realtor of the Year by the Connecticut Mortgage Association. And that's a lot of realtors throughout the state of Connecticut. So I'm able to help you and with some of your needs. And if not, I call Patrick.
That's right.
Let him take over from there, because he's the mortgage man. He's the mortgage guru, and I'm the real estate person.
Yeah, it's
And
a
like I said, it takes
collaboration.
a team. We have different attorneys. We have the different inspectors. The bank picks out the appraiser, but we work as a team to try and get you into that particular dream house. So, like I said, if there's questions that you have out there, you can put them in the chat box. And, hopefully after you get
Or
that
they can
offer
do them live, or
accepted,
they can do them live. I
or
was
they can
told.
do it live,
Mhm.
they can call us.
I
But
prefer live because sometimes people type their questions, and by the time we read it, it's taking up time. Whereas if it's verbal, we can answer it right away. So I would prefer, even though they can still type it, but I would prefer, put your hands
exactly.
up and ask the question so we can answer them as opposed to reading the questions right off the bat.
After we have gotten the offer accepted and everything has been approved, I just wanted to make a note that what's the next step? We go out and we do our final inspection of the property. After everything is done and Patrick's done his job and the mortgage has been approved, we always go back and make sure the house is still standing and everything is still there,
It's a
and make sure
walkthrough.
everything
They call it a walkthrough.
we call it a walkthrough, make sure everything is good. If
That's
that's
right.
okay, we give the attorney the thumbs up and we say, go ahead, close, sign all the paperwork and everything, and then you get the keys, and you pick the wife up and you're walking across the threshold.
That's
You
right.
become a happy homeowner.
All right.
Those are
So Charles, let's kind of broaden this out a little bit.
I was gonna say, we're gonna have to read the questions. One question for you is right there.
yes.
And I can't see too good from here.
They're asking, do you have any experience in VA loans?
Yeah.
I just asked that.
I'm sorry, I was talking to my coordinator here a little bit. The person who asked about a VA loan, yes, we have VA loans available for the veterans. That's one program that we didn't touch on yet, but of course, we can get into that. If they have any specific question as to a VA, we can take care of that. But I do implore you to listen on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock, because we cover a lot of these things there, which we can cover here all in this one program.
All right, so now I got another question here. It says, I missed everything. I had to work. I came in late, I guess. Is there going to be a recap of this meeting, and what do you plan to speak about in the next Zoom? Actually, there's going to be a recording of this Zoom meeting that they can go to. You can actually email your address in the chat box, and we're going to be doing a recording of this so that we can send this meeting to you. And I'd say in the future, the next Zoom meeting that we will be talking about some ways of improving your credit, what the bank's looking for, right, Patrick? As as far as credit,
Absolutely.
ways of becoming creative financing, maybe join up with a relative for buying a property, mother, father, whatever it may be. And also we're going to be talking about some different types of creative financing. Now, the other question was, is there any assistance in purchasing a property with towards the closing costs? Well, two different things. Some of the banks have different funds available for the closing costs. depending upon if you qualify. There's a closing cost credit. The other thing is that I, as the realtor, can ask the buyer to assist you with your closing costs. Let's say your closing cost a total of let's say $6,000, $8,000. Now, Patrick, I know that the bank allows a certain percentage to go
I will
towards
go into that, yes.
the closing costs. So
Mhm.
therefore, I can ask the seller to help you out with your closing costs. Maybe you have enough just for your down payment, but you don't have all the money. So that's where I come into the picture by asking the seller to help you with your closing costs.
If it's FHA, the seller can assist with up to 6%. And 6% of a certain number of purchase, certain purchase price could be a significant amount, maybe cover the entire closing cost. So, it's so amazing. Let's say, for example, you put your 3.5% down, and the seller has elected to assist you with 6%. You could be home free with just a down payment, right?
Exactly.
Also, there's something here that we didn't touch on, a gift.
Gift, right, right.
A gift. I'm gonna run through that real quick. A gift is when a family member, preferably, assists you with your down payment. Now, let's say you're buying a house, first time buyer, and your uncle across town, your dad or some family member wants to assist with your down payment. There's no limit to the down payment or the number of gifts you can get. I had a situation where a client got 3 gifts. The dad helped out, mom helped out a little bit, and then uncle also helped out. So if you're getting 100% gift and the seller is paying your closing cost up to 6%, there you go, buying a property with no money of your own. These are creative ways that we can show you how you can get into a property. But of course, like I said before, we cannot cover it all here. We have to spread it out. And a good way, like I said before, to do that is listening to the program or join us again on another one of these seminars, and you will get all the information that you want. Or you can set an appointment to come in and talk to us. Right, Charles?
That's completely true. Well, I think we've come to the end. We don't want to give them all the secrets. This is just a start. This is
Yes.
Going to be continued. We're going to have other seminars, and we're going to have different subjects. Like one of the individuals said, what are the other subjects? There's so much that we can talk about to assist the people, and each one of them will have a theme. This one was mostly about where do you start as a
Yeah,
first-time buyer.
just jumping all over and giving you
Give me a general
a touch of
overall.
everything, a touch of everything. But just like you said, we're going to create it where we may say this seminar is for the people with credit issues, or this seminar is also touching on the investors who want to buy a property with no income. Believe me, I'm doing it every day. No income verification. You have decent credit or good credit and you have your money, you can buy a property. It's phenomenal. So we have the knowledge. We want to pass it on to you because it is said that knowledge without passing it on is no good. Right? We want to be good.
Maybe you want to give them your contact information again?
203-673-5638 or 800-381-9722. That's the 800 number there. Again, we're located at 1000 Lafayette Boulevard, downtown Bridgeport. Give us a call, come into the office, see where we are. I'll make you coffee. I'll be real nice to you. I'll put the red carpet out. No, well, it's blue now. It's blue now. We'll put the blue carpet out for you.
Put the blue carpet out.
And very important, that radio station there, every week, it's at your fingertips. All right. Download the mobile app, keep it on your phone. Check us out every single Wednesday, 11 o'clock. And like I just thought about it while we were having this, that we could put the program in the evening time as well. For the people who cannot listen during work hours, they can be home after dinner and they're listening and learning. And we want to motivate you, empower you to be financially independent. Trust me, we have done it to several people, Charles and I. We want to pass it on to you. Please tell them how they can find you.
Again, my name is Charles Scott. I am the broker and the owner of Tri-State Realty, located at 880 North Avenue in Bridgeport, Connecticut. You see my phone number in the background there, 203-334-7434. And even my cell phone, 203-232-5523. So you see, it's okay when I'm giving you out my cell phone.
That's right.
You can contact me just about anywhere. And I also am on Soundview Communications TV program, and that's the public access TV program over in Stratford on
This guy's all over the place.
We're on radio, TV.
That's right.
Zoom. You name it. But we got to get this information out there. So we're not hiding from no one.
Right. And I implore you, the people who are on this program, to tell your friends and neighbors about us. And that's how you spread the wealth around, the wealth of knowledge. Tell your friends about the radio station. Tell them about this Zoom meeting that we're going to be having once a month. And so, we can take it from there. God bless you all. And it's a pleasure doing this with you. Charles, any final words?
I just like to thank everyone that tuned in tonight. And again, tell your friends, this is valuable information that we're giving out. And what's the cost? Nothing. We want to be able to educate the community and create wealth and put everybody in touch with someone that can help them and be able to create home ownership. Again, thanks everyone for listening in.
Have a good night.
Good night.